Hi guys, happy Sunday evening. I am here live again doing my video because again the day got away from me. But it's wonderful to be live and be able to answer a question that I actually got today on one of my posts. I post about how earlier this week I had in my mind that I had 7 clients during the day, and I told my husband, I'm like, I have 7 today. And as I'm leaving my mom's, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a busy day. There's 7 clients today. And I had 6 on the calendar, but I squeezed 1 in. And Christine, you asked me if I get tired, if I have to put limits on readings because of physical exhaustion, because of getting myself overtired, as you have had that experience. And I can tell you that used to be how I was. There were times when I first started reading. I've been reading professionally for 10 years now. And when I would first start doing the fair circuit, I would have to take the Monday after a weekend show off just because I was so exhausted. When I was in my full-time job, I would hope that I had the day off, like that it would be a long weekend, or I would be putting in for that personal day so I didn't have to get up Monday morning and get into my corporate job while I was exhausted from all the readings that I had done. And that is one of the things I know that a lot of readers experience. When I started on the fair circuit, I was always told by readers, they're like, make sure you have Monday off. Make sure you take some time for yourself to regroup. You're going to be really tired after the fairs. You're going to be really tired after you do a lot of readings. And I thought that that was the normal. I thought that was what was to be expected. And you know what? I found that it doesn't have to be that way. I am not necessarily limited by constraints by the number of readings. The biggest thing is time. And what I have found really helps for me is that I put a space in between each one of my readings. When I am booking online, my online booker, they have to give 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after. So between each of my clients, there's a 30-minute gap. At least. That way, that gives me time to go over. I'm not feeling rushed into my next appointment. And that way, it gives me enough of a breather that I don't get exhausted. I find that I do get exhausted if I feel rushed. If I feel like I have to keep on going. If I'm knowing that there's clients breathing down my neck and I know that I have to get on to the next one, that's when I start to get tired, because it's not the reading that is necessarily as exhausting. It's the fact that I'm pushing myself to get as much information out as quickly as possible, and I feel that stress of getting on to the next one and getting on to the next one. I found this even with the fairs. After my daughter was born, I went back to the fairs. It was a little bit less than a month after she was born, and I was on my first fair. And I knew then, because I was nursing, that I had to schedule blocks so that I was able to get to my daughter and fill her needs. It was every 2 to 3 hours she needed to nurse. And so I was scheduling my clients, and I had blocks of time for every 15-minute reading I was doing. I was blocking them on the 20 minutes. And if someone wanted a half an hour reading, they needed to take 2 of those spots. I was not going to be squeezing people in. And lo and behold, I found that my reading, even though I was tired because I had an infant less than a month old, I was tired because of that, but the reading schedule, it was so much simpler. Like, I was less stressed, less tired than I'd ever been before. And so I really, at that point, it's like I was doing it in my personal, for my private readings, my sessions, and making sure I had that time in between. But I was doing the same thing now at the fair, and it made a world of difference. And so now when I book private sessions and private parties, I make sure that my clients know that if they're booking they're booking readings with individuals, don't plan on half an hour being a half an hour. plan on a half an hour being 40 to 45 minutes between clients. If you have someone who is getting a 15-minute, plan on it being 20 to 25 minutes. That gives me the opportunity to go over a little bit, give my spiel, get people changed and moved between the sessions, as opposed to being on the half hour or the 15 minutes. When I feel that stress, when people are telling me, and I even had this recently, I was at a party and one of the women, and as it's 4:15, she's like, well, I'm your 3:30. And then as she's leaving and it's like 5 o'clock, she's like, well, now on to your 4. It's like, no, that's not how it works. And I understand where there's this thought that it is every 15 minutes, that's what it should be. But if someone's really going to get the most out of their reading, and I'm going to be as capable as possible, that is something that's really important. And Terry, thank you. It has been a great time management strategy, and it really has eliminated the stress. And so I don't find myself tired when I'm doing the readings, because I don't have that monkey on my back, that, oh, you gotta get on to the next, you gotta get on to the next. And especially in the fairs, where there would be times that people would be breathing down the table's neck because they had no idea what time their reading was going to be for. They had no idea when they were going to be able to get in. Where if they signed up in my slot and it said 4 o'clock and they could see that I was going on that time, they could go and do something else and then come back, as opposed to wasting most of their day sitting there. So it has been a wonderful strategy for me. Another thing that I do find that is incredibly helpful, that has allowed me to be less stressed and has helped with the not becoming exhausted, is the setting of space. I have found it has made a world of difference since I have been reading more in private practice and out of one of my two offices, be it my home office or my East Aurora office. I find having that space, having that energy, having that comfort, it makes things easier to let go of the energy. Everything I need is right there. I'm not worried that I'm going to be disrupted. It's that comfort helps tremendously. That's not always the case. You may not. It has taken me many years to get to the point where my private practice is booming in the way that it is. That I'm not doing the fairs. I'm not doing as many house parties. I limit the amount of house parties, which is something else I recommend for folks. I know that when you're just starting out in business, you're hungry to have as many clients and do as much as you possibly can. When I started out, I was going everywhere in New York State. Like I would drive out for house parties in Waterloo. For those of you not familiar with the Buffalo, Western New York region, from where I was in Buffalo, that was a 3.5-hour drive. And fortunately, I had clients who were out there, and I was able to book 2 parties in a weekend and stay overnight, and it made it financially successful and a good thing for me to be able to do. But I was away, and it was hard, and so it's not always possible. The one thing I want to encourage you to do, if you are finding yourself having to go to all these different places and don't have the luxury like I do to have 2 private offices or someplace where you can see clients like that, be very clear with what your expectations of space are. Take the time to go and set up that space and put up your boundaries. And if you're doing a house party with somebody, make sure that they know that this is what your needs are. For myself, I always tell people I need to be in a semi-private area so that people aren't always overhearing what I'm saying. But more importantly, so that there's not a lot of through traffic, because the through traffic, that's what can be disruptive. I was once put in a house party where I was literally in a hallway that was between the living room and the kitchen, and people just kept walking by, and it was the most distracting thing I've ever been in. And I had to tell the woman, I'm like, I'm sorry, I cannot read here. And if you're going to leave me here, I can't do this house party. I can't do it. It was stressing me out again, which was taking from my energy because I had to keep putting up that bulbo. When you have that sacred space that you can go to, like I have the luxury of my 2 offices, I don't have to worry about setting up my boundaries and setting up the space. So I feel safe there. When I would go to, so now I make sure people know exactly what I need, and it has helped tremendously. And it can be things that are simple, from being in that semi-private place to having a power outlet, which is something I need for my computer. But it can be more significant. I read a book, Janet Nohavec, and she talks about how she's very clear with her clients. If it is in the summertime and they do not have air conditioning, she's not doing the readings in their house because she is not comfortable in the heat, and it's not going to be something that she's going to be able to perform her best at. And it's going to be one of those things where she's just like, you know what, that's something I cannot do. I cannot function. It takes too much energy from me. And so if you do have those luxuries, you do have some of those restrictions, any reader out there who is looking and they're feeling tired, that's one of the things to be thinking of. If you do have it, get there early, set up early, have your ritual so that you can set that space and you don't have to be thinking about it all of the time. And Karina, I can't wait to see you in my home office either. It is so beautiful. For those of you who have been following my whole home office renovation, I apologize, I'm on a tangent right now, going off to the side. But the door came in today, so I know my door is going to be installed tomorrow, which is like the last part of the project, and then it's just finishing that little bit, and it's all done. I'm so excited. In my house, I know you guys saw this tour. It's still torn up from moving things, but we've got beds in all of the rooms, and now it's just putting things away in their new homes for storage. But my last tip when it comes to, I know it's so exciting. I know, right? Finally a door. Who knew you could be so excited about a door? It's so exciting. But the last thing that I want to encourage anybody who is a reader, who is doing readings, finds themselves isn't empathic, and finds themselves becoming drained when they are doing this type of work. The last bit of tip I have is to remember that when you are doing these sessions and you are sending love, you're sending healing, it's not coming from you. If you feel the compassion, the empathy, and you want to hold that person and hug them and comfort them, that's taking your energy. Like, you are feeling for them. You are literally, you can feel for somebody but still remain detached. For me, I always feel, there's a part of me that feels bad when I see a client crying about, I can tell you it's probably about 80%, maybe more, of my clients who at some point during the session tear up, get choked up, cry, get glassy-eyed, where I can tell that I've struck a nerve, and they're emotional about it. Good, bad, everything in between. Sometimes it's just that the whole thing can be overwhelming. Reddit, you know, it can be overwhelming. And tissues, I have to thank you for that because it'll remind me to put my tissues back in my office. I didn't have them on Friday when I did them, and I was feeling guilty about that. But it is something where people get choked up, and I just kind of keep on going. I keep on talking. I don't stop. I don't comfort the person because that's not what I'm there for. And if I detach and I start taking on that pain, that hurt, that overwhelmingness. Yes, got to make sure I get the tissues. It's emotional. Thank you guys for commenting. I love being able to see that people are following along. But it is something that it can be so overwhelming for me if I start to personalize it, if I start to become more immersed in the person's life as their friend, as their companion, as opposed to the conduit and remaining objective. If I am not objective, I can't do my job as well as I can't do the best at my job. And that's what I really want to do for you guys. And I know that when I do become overly compassionate and I do become immersed in the person's life, that's when it starts to drain me. That's when I get tired. And you may find the same thing. And it's hard to become objective. It's hard to become unattached to someone's lives. And I hope that when folks know that I don't comfort and I don't give them that hug during it, it's not because I don't care, but it's I'm protecting myself. And I trust that the energy I have set in the room, no matter where I'm at, is going to help take care of you. I know that the angels, I know that the guides, I know that your loved ones, God, the universe, can envelop you with more love than I could ever. And it is amazing to me because I know there is so much love in the universe, so much compassion. The love that I feel from the folks on the other side, the words don't even describe. On this plane, it is such a full feeling. And my goal is by setting the intention in that space, that everybody who sits on my couch sits across from me, and even if it's not on my couch, but it's at a dining room table in someone else's house, that they're going to feel that. And I trust that the universe will. And thank you, Karina. And ready, we do gotta love those angels. And it is something that for any reader out there, that's something to remember, is that you can call in those guides, those angels, set the intent, and then you don't necessarily have to be doing it and giving your own energy. If you give your own energy, you're going to be tired. And it's something that it has taken me many years to learn, and I'm still learning. It is something I am still growing through. Every reader will continue to evolve, and anyone who says that they're not, if you're alive, you're still growing, you're still evolving. That's the purpose of life. But it is something that any reader can do. And anyone who is feeling the pull and is empathic, intuitive, and feels it from their family members where they're feeling the energy being drained out of them, think of the cup runneth over. Think of, okay, I'm going to send you love, but I'm going to take my hands off and I'm going to let the universe do its job. And you know what? It does. So guys, and Christine, I'm not sure if you have tuned in, but I hope you see this. I hope that has answered your questions on how I feel during sessions and why I keep it limited. I also should add, just as a complete aside, that's what I do during my sessions to make sure that I keep my energy up. I also have found that it's important to take a day off. I take a day in the middle of the week off. Wednesday is my day off, and I do everything I possibly can to keep that a family day and do as little amount of connection with the universe as possible. I also have found that on the weekends, if I can take one day off, then I'll do that as well. Because working both days, I used to do house parties where I do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and this is when I had a full-time job, and I do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday after work, and then Monday was back at work, so I was working 7 days a week, and that really wiped me out, just because you can only do so much. And so I do want to say that it is something that, if you do have the luxury of doing that, that helps tremendously as well. Time management, I cannot stress enough. And thank you all. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Reddit, again. I appreciate it. Well, that's all for today. I will be talking to you guys tomorrow. We are getting really close to the end of the 100 days. Really close to my book launch. I am super duper excited. And so stay tuned for more details about all of that. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.